Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at a new set of fans from the people over at GIM Gaming. So this is the KB28. This is a 3-pack addressable RGB case fan set with a addressable RGB controller, remote control, all those kinds of things. We've got 3 120mm fans, so they're 120 by 120 by 25mm. They've got a 0 to 1300 RPM rating, and also they've got 4 speeds. Well, technically 3, but if you include stopped a speed, then yeah, there's 4 speeds. So they've got a hydro bearing, there's a 20 dBA low noise level, and they look very, very good. These have actually got uprated LEDs. The whole system has been updated. So if you've seen previous fans from GIM, they're kind of the same in terms of branding and they look the same, but actually underneath the hood, the bearings are completely changed with that hydro bearing, and also the electrics are changed as well. So let's open the box and see what we actually get. Now before we open the box, let's take a look actually at the box. So they've actually upped their game. The packaging actually seems to be much nicer. So we've got this new GIM logo, and also we've got these color matching, so that looks really nice. And it's not cardboard anymore, it's a nice proper box with printing on, which is always a good thing. So we've got KB28 on there, RGB case fan, as you said, it's a 3-pack. On the side we've got the specifications, so I'll give you a close-up on those so you can take a closer look and pause the screen if you wanted to. But yeah, overall I think actually packaging wise they've really done very well on this. There are a couple of versions of these available, the KB28, so you can get them actually in black or you can get them in white, which is designated on the side there, so there's a black or white option. Currently, bizarrely, on Amazon.co.uk at the moment, if you do pick these up, the black ones are actually a little bit more expensive than the white ones. So if you're after the white set and you want to pick up a bargain, then there's links in the video description below. So that's enough of that, let's take a look and see what we actually get. So it's going to be no surprise, but there are actually 3 fans included in this kit, as we mentioned once or twice already. You get an instruction manual, which actually is pretty decent, pretty clear, and tells you what all the button features do on the remote control, how it all goes together, all that kind of usual stuff. So that's all very good. There is a accessories pack, which has got your remote control and also the fan hub controller, which we'll take a look at shortly. And obviously we get 3 of GIM's new uprated fans. So what have we got on these? So we've got rubber dampers in all 4 corners on both the front and the rear. It's actually a much better design overall. It seems much heavier. There's a lot of weight in this now. Some of the previous ones actually seemed a little bit lightweight, but this actually seems to be very solid, very well constructed, very, very strong actually. Not a lot of wiggle in those at all, which is going to be great for keeping those noises down. They've also gone with a 9-blade design, so this is going to be a kind of a midway between static airflow and kind of air pressure, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, nice design. And actually they do seem to move quite a bit of air, which we'll take a look at later when we do the testing. So the frame itself, excellent, and also there's arrows on the side if you're not too sure which direction the airflow is. Moving on to the back, you can see the RGB is going to bleed through really nicely there. The actual arms from the motor in the middle there, quite narrow, so if you are having these in the front of your PC, and they are going to bleed a little bit light towards the back, and obviously if you use them on a radiator or as an intake or an exhaust, they're going to be absolutely fine and show you plenty of light through that really nice opaque blade and also outer edge. One thing which may be slightly divisive for some people is the connectivity. So these are connected by a single connection, which is a 6-pin connector. Now obviously if you wanted to, you could actually de-pin that and create it into the individual addressable RGB and PWM controls. But this makes wiring very, very simple. You've only got 1 wire going from the fan to the controller, and again you can connect up to 10 fans on this particular controller. So even if you've got a case similar to the one I've got behind where there's 9 fans in there, absolute piece of cake, and you've only got 9 wires rather than the usual 18 or more that you'd have from kind of more traditional fan styles. So that's the fans taking a look at. Let's have a look, see what we get actually in our accessories bag. So I have actually set these up already to make sure they work and all that kind of stuff, so they do normally come through a little bit more better package than this. So first of all, we've got the actual controller. So you've got 5 fan headers on one side, another 5 there. Also the option to attach LED strips, which GIM Gaming sells separately, so you can put in some LED strips if you wanted to as well. And on this end we've got our main I/O, so we've got our incoming power, which is on a SATA connection, which I'm really, really pleased to see. It's very nice to not see a molex connector on this, so well done GIM Gaming for that one. Also on the bottom you've got options for a reset switch, so if you want to, if you've got a spare switch on your PC or you want to use the reset switch, you can plug that into the 2-pin connector and use that to manually go through the lighting options for the system. On the other side there is a kind of I/O section, so that will connect to your motherboard. So if you've got a motherboard which supports 5-volt addressable RGB, or the VDG connection, then you can plug that in and then you can use remote control to actually switch between either using the onboard RGB controller in this, or you can use the onboard RGB controller on your motherboard. The choice is entirely down to you. So this is perfect if you've got a board which has addressable RGB and you want to synchronize things, absolutely great. Or maybe you've got a slightly older motherboard that doesn't support addressable RGB, such as the older B450 Tomahawk boards, for example, but you do want to add a bit of addressable RGB bling. This is perfect. On the back, for those of you that are interested, there is actually a foam double-sided sticky pad, so you can peel that back and stick it to the back panel of your PC if you want to, but you may not want to, because this actually, as with the fans, does have addressable RGB. So there's LEDs in here which will actually light up the same as the fans. So if you want a little bit extra RGB bling, then you can have this on display, although obviously you may have to be a little bit more discreet with your wiring. Also included, which is pretty obvious, but I thought I'd mention it anyway, so you get 3 sets of screws for actually mounting the fans into your case, onto a radiator, etc. There's also the split off or spin off cable, so this has the 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB and also the VDG connection, and the other end of that just plugs into the controller. So again, if you want to use that, you can do. If you don't want to, if you want to cut down on wiring because you want this to be as kind of on show as possible, then this is detachable, which is excellent, so you don't have to have it on show. Last up is the remote control, which does come with an included CR2032 battery. Nice and easy to do, just there is a little plastic tab in there, so make sure you pull that out, otherwise it's not going to work. This is pretty much the same deal as we see on a lot of other types of remote control, but it has got all the features that you could possibly want. So you've obviously got power on off, which is for turning the lights on or off. That is actually additional, so when you press the off button, it doesn't turn the fans off, so the fans will continue running. So if you still want the fans to work, but you don't want the LED lighting, then you can just press the power button, that will turn those on and off. You've got fan speed plus and minus, so these do not connect to the PWM controller on your motherboard, which in some cases can be a blessing, because it's something less you don't have to set up in the BIOS or in separate software. You can literally just press those buttons. And actually the 4 speeds which are included are actually very good and exceptionally quiet, apart from the highest speed, which obviously is going to create a little bit more turbulence and therefore a little bit more noise. You've also got options on there for MB, which is the motherboard button, so that transfers the settings from either the controller to your motherboard and vice versa. And you've got things like DIY mode, brightness, speed for lighting, so if you're using the inbuilt controller, you can adjust the speed of the lighting, maybe to synchronize with other possible keyboards and mice you may have. And you've also got brightness for the LEDs, various different menus, auto, you've got a direct access for white, red, green and blue, and on the bottom, some of my personal favourites are the sound to noise profiles. So you can use those on the bottom, press either of those. If you've got some music playing, it will pick it up. There is a very small microphone actually in the unit, and that will make the sound go to the beat of your music. So let's see what that actually looks like. So let's see how it all goes together. So first of all, we're going to start off with our controller. As you can see, we've got a rather old looking power supply here, but fortunately it isn't that old that it doesn't have a SATA connector. So we can plug the SATA connector into the power, like so, and it lights up straight away. So essentially this is what it's going to look like. You've got that RGB on there, and you can actually control this on its own if you want to. So there you go. On and off, etc, etc. You get the general idea. So all we need to do now is to connect up the fans. Now you can connect them up in any particular order you want to. There are 10 ports, as we said earlier. You've got 3 fans, you can plug them in wherever you want, it doesn't matter. Some controllers do specify that you have to plug in 1 fan at least to the very first connection in order to send the PWM signals through, but that isn't the case on this particular one. So we can go ahead and we can actually hot plug all of the fans if you wanted to. So I'm going to use fan port 1, fan port 3, and fan port 5. Again, because of the way this is done, safety in mind, there's overload protection, all that kind of stuff, so you can just plug fans in if you want to. So if you are someone who is into tinkering with these things, then you can basically plug them in however you want to. Now you'll probably find that these fans on this desk, obviously there is going to be some resonance because this is a hollow desk, so you can probably hear that now. So if we lift them up, and you can hear the resonance is gone. Although this is on one of the higher settings for the actual speed, So let's go ahead and go through some of those speed settings now so you can see and hear what they're actually like. So that is, I believe, on the highest setting. So let's turn them off entirely. That should be off. Yep, there we go. So there you go, there they are in low noise mode. Well, they're stopped, but they are extremely quiet. But saying that, even going on to the next speed, which is always a problem. These types of controllers, I don't know what it is, but they've always previously, I have to say that previously, they've always had a weird issue with clicking or just not the power being right for the first speed or setting, or maybe even the first two. So let's press it onto fan speed 1, and it just works absolutely perfectly. Essentially, it is completely silent. In fact, the noisiest thing I can hear is the capacitors in the power supply, which are squeaking a little bit. But the fans themselves, absolutely silent, and they look great. And they're actually moving a little bit of air. The fan speeds as they go, so you've got silent, obviously speed 0 meters per second. We have actually measured this with a ammeter. I think that's what they call it. Basically a wind speed thing, which I bought from Amazon. Speed 1, you're looking at 1.3 meters per second. Speed 2, you're looking at about 1.5 meters per second. And on highest speed, we're looking around about 1.7 meters per second. So there isn't a huge amount of difference between kind of speed 1 to 3, but there is actually in terms of noise. So speed 1 is essentially silent. You can against the ambient noise in the room, it's indistinguishable. Next speed. So now we can hear a little bit more noise. Most of it is actually coming through the desk itself. So if we lift these up a bit, again, essentially they are absolutely silent. And now they're moving a little bit more air, so around about 1.5 meters per second. Let's go to the top speed. Now you can definitely hear the motors are spinning. Again, a lot of that is resonance through the desk. Terrified I'm going to get my fingers in the fan blades. It always happens at some point or other. But these are actually moving a lot of air, so about 1.7, 1.8 meters per second, which 2 meters per second, if you're outside in a breeze, 2 meters per second, that's actually quite a lot. And it is moving a lot of air. We measured all this at around about 6 inches away with our meter, so with the fans behind, obviously trying to pick up the speed as it would be in your PC case. So if you've got these maybe at the front of your PC, this is going to be roughly about 6 inches away or so from where your graphics card sits, which is what most of you are likely to want to keep cool. Or obviously your processor, which is going to be a little bit further back, but not too much. So it's definitely moving a lot of air. I like them a lot, and the new RGB LEDs they've used in these actually do seem to be pretty decent. Now, as per usual with everything, they don't always look very good on camera. So if I dim them down a bit, you can probably get a better idea. So you have got the option to turn the brightness down, so hopefully that looks a little bit better now, as it's not dazzling the camera. So colour-wise, again, you've got the white, red, green and blue, and then we've got the sound to light. So if we press on that, so now when I speak, then obviously the light is going to go with it. I think this looks actually really cool, and obviously depending on what you're doing, if you're playing games or listening to music, maybe you've got this as your PC and it's in this corner of your room and you're having kind of like a social party or whatever. It's actually just nice to have something going with the music, with the tempo that flashes along. So you've got 3 options there. The first one was obviously your kind of regular RGB unicorn puke, as you can see. Then you've got the one with the slightly different colours. Actually, I kind of like that. That is kind of quite trippy. And the last one there just goes through sound to light. Yeah, I really like that. And obviously the same is the case with the actual controller as well. That does the same thing as well. So yeah, overall I think these are actually really good. I don't think there's anything I've forgotten to mention. Price wise, at the moment these are about £22 for the black set on Amazon.co.uk. If you go for the white set, I think they're about £19 at the moment. So for 3 fans, a controller that actually works and does what it's meant to, with the remote control, with the pass-through feature, so you can connect it up to other addressable RGB systems on your motherboard, or maybe from some other thing like a water cooler or something. Yeah, I think these are actually really good. You've got absolutely hundreds and hundreds of modes which you can go through, clicking through various options, various lighting styles, etc. Obviously, if you are plugging it into your motherboard, you're going to be limited to what is available on your motherboard's controller. But overall, yeah, I didn't want to review these, I'll be completely honest with you. When they reached out to me and said, Mike, we've got these fans, would you like to take a look at them? I just replied saying, I've already seen them. And that was my initial reaction, and I think that's what a lot of people are probably going to be thinking. When they see the word GIM and fan set, and they see that design of that controller, most people will be, okay, I've seen it 100 times before, hundreds of YouTubers have all done the same videos talking about them, but the KB28 is something different. It really, really is. Obviously we've got the SATA connection, which is really important for a lot of people, but the fact that the actual speed controller works and doesn't give kind of weird pulsing or anything like that, which is what we've had complaints about previously, not just from GIM, from pretty much all the other manufacturers which do a kind of similar kind of deal. This has definitely upped their game, and bizarrely it seems to have reduced in price, which can only be a good thing for everybody. So let me know what you think about these in the comments section below. Have GIM come to a point now where these actually are a realistic option, even for people who are kind of slightly higher up the chain in terms of what they want to spend on their PC? For budget people, yeah, you've got no problem at all with this whatsoever. £20 for 3 fans, controller, all this stuff. It's an obvious thing to go for. You'd be crazy not to buy them, and they're certainly a very impressive improvement on their previous versions. So yeah, let me know what you think about these in the comments section. In the meantime, I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.